agency slash Church of Korihor. I am Exmo Joe, and this is a totally impromptu live. I gotta tell you, I didn't sleep at all last night after an amazing video dropped from, I can't say he's an associate. I don't think he knows I exist, but from one of my favorite creators, which is, hey, we got hide in the house, which is my main man, Genetically Modified Skeptic. Okay, he's not my main man. I have lots of men. I am swimming in men. But we're going to bring on one of those here with us in a moment, and that's my good friend, historian, and all-around brilliant fellow ex-Mormon and fellow cold-hearted atheist, Tim Rathbone, very popular from Latter Daily Digest, etc. Let's bring him on right now. What's up? We got Tim Rathbone in the house. How you doing, baby?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Right. Cool. Well, people coming in from all over the internet, because I got people should be showing up from TikTok. We got people from YouTube. We got people from Facebook. So
cool.
We're going to get our show rolling today. We're going to talk about this video from Genetically Modified Skeptic. Tim and I have both watched it in its entirety. And I have also watched a lot of other things and have a personal connection to it. We're going to talk about it. But basically, one of these rising stars at Charlie Kirk's old firm, I call Talking Points USA, Turning Point USA is what it's officially known as, did an interview with the head of the Ku Klux Klan and accidentally exposed how everything that Charlie Kirk used to say not only lines up right along with the Klan, but furthermore reaches all the way back into a Mormon historian, ish / FBI agent / firebrand / problem child.
I wouldn't call him a historian.
Okay, but that's because you're an actual historian.
That's true.
And that's our main man that we love and care for. That's a lie. Cleon Skousen. So we're going to talk about it here in a minute. But first, we're going to give ourselves a little chance to have some fun, because trigger warning, we're going to talk racism. We're going to talk religion. We're going to talk the darkest crap. We're going to smile through the whole thing. I am anyways, for the most part, because I love taking down Cleon, because I have a personal vendetta. This anti-Mormon, this is going to go full 11. So never forget, charlatans never change.
Big top goes up, preacher works the street. Come find Jesus at the meet and greet. Sell you heaven, then shake you from their feet. They'll cure every ill, make the blind to see. Uncle Sam don't see a thing, 'cause charlatans never change. Saying in that holy name, fools burned in holy flame. Oh, charlatans never change. Cure your gout. Pass the plate, take a pass on down, 'cause charlatans never change. Saying in that holy name, fools burned in holy flame. Oh, charlatans never change.
Gene, dance or we think you don't have fun.
Throne, sow your seed, reap what you've sown. Hung over in Jesus' tent. Refill your wallet, Sunday comes again. 'Cause charlatans never change. Soothsaying in that holy name. Fools burned in holy flame. Oh, charlatans never change.
All right, we have the one and only Gene Judson in the house. How you doing, Gene?
Hanging in there.
Hey, Gene.
You don't know Gene, you are living a sad, miserable existence. He runs the Latter Daily Digest, and he's an all-around good person. Those are his two credentials. Sometimes driver, sometimes historian, part-time historian.
Let's see, chronicler of the 21st century.
Oh, excellent.
That's right. Yep.
That's
true.
In the Mormon globosphere.
Yep. Yep.
I lost you, Joe, for a second. We're not hearing you. For some reason, we're not hearing anything.
Uh-oh.
So I just decided to stream it to my channel to see if anybody will hop on as well. And Joe, we're not hearing your audio.
Can you send my message, Gene?
How about now?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Weird.
All right.
Just all of a sudden started to acting funny. Okay.
Demons.
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 Okay.
Instead of K-pop, it's KKK demons.
Gosh.
Indeed.
Well, let's watch this thing. Okay. So as I was saying before, this is Genetically Modified Skeptic. He got his hands on this interview. Apparently it was published 2 weeks ago. I had no idea. I didn't even know who this guy was that he's talking about, this Bryce kid, but we'll get caught up as we go here. And it should become pretty apparent in this haphazard bunch of clips why this struck up my interest and why I thought we got to get the family together, the Exmo fam together, and talk about it. So here we go.
Appreciate you sticking to your beliefs, to sticking to your guns, and explain how you feel. I personally, with all due respect, I think I just have a really hard time, respectfully, I have a really hard time wrapping my mind around that. With all due respect, God, thank you for my kind, respectful conversation with Pastor Thomas Robb. Look, you're the Grand Wizard of the Knights Party of the KKK, and I love you. I think you're a kind, gentle human being, and I've had a joy talking to you.
Yes, this is where Christian apologetics is now, explicitly showing love and respect for the leader of the largest terrorist organization in American history. And as appalling as this is, this shouldn't surprise us at all. Let me take you through this video and explain. First, just to provide a little contrast and perspective here, while Christian nationalists are praising the KKK and justifying ICE murdering people, a group of Buddhist monks are currently walking from my hometown of Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C., all in an effort to promote their principles of peace, mindfulness, and nonviolence. About 50 sources have reported on this story, and while left and center-leaning sources emphasize the monks' persistence and growing popularity, right-leaning sources are barely covering this story at all. That fact alone provides some insight into the story, I think. I was able to see that disparity in coverage as soon as I began reading this story because I found it on Ground News.
Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead while he does his little advertisement, which is fine for him. But yeah, so everybody feel like we're caught up here, who we're talking about?
Yep.
So this guy, Bryce, he is basically a Liberty University student who is studying the Bible. He has these like big revivals.
He's not studying the Bible.
Okay, he's studying Liberty University's idea of what biblical studies.
That's right.
The Jerry Falwell, and Jerry Falwell comes into play here, interestingly enough. So we'll have to talk about that. But so yeah, so we're gonna get caught up here in a minute. Let's get caught up with who this gentleman is talking to. Just skip ahead here.
This recent video on Bryce Crawford's channel is not a debate, but an interview with Thomas Robb, the Grand Imperial Wizard, or in other words, the leader of the KKK. It takes place inside Thomas's church, where he is the pastor. Bryce, if you weren't aware, is one of the rising stars of...
Because, of course, he has his own church. The head of the Klan is a pastor of his own Christian church. This comes as a surprise to no one. This is very important. What he doesn't go over in this, and apropos of nothing, I think this guy's great. I love his content. Love your work, Genetic. But the man in the actual interview, which we're going to see some clips that he didn't cover in this segment, made sure to point out to Bryce, this young man here, that he wants to keep his work for the Klan and his work for the church entirely separate. But when Bryce Crawford interviews him and asks him about it, he makes it pretty clear the church's ideals and values are his personal ideals and values, and they are all Klan all the time. So that's who we're dealing with.
Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's Christian nationalist organization. He's also a Bible major at Liberty University, where he's hosted massive events. This is an evangelical school founded by evangelist Jerry Falwell in Lynchburg, Virginia. Bryce says he sought out this dialogue with Thomas for 6 months. You've already seen the intro.
And I think you're a very kind, gentle human.
So let's skip ahead a little bit. Bryce asks Thomas...
Just want to point out that's Jerry Falwell, the original Jerry Falwell, not Jerry Falwell Jr., the fun Jerry Falwell with the kick-ass wife who's always game for a good time. If you know, you know.
Thomas to tell us about himself. He explains that
with the pool boy. It was with the pool boy or the cabana boy or something.
He was raised in a politically active home which loved Joseph McCarthy back in the 50s.
Joseph McCarthy was very well known. He was a senator from Wisconsin. He was very well known back in the early 1950s. Okay. And he was doing what Donald Trump is doing today. He was going after the deep state. And
okay, got to stop right there before we get into anything else. We haven't even gotten halfway to Cleon Skousen here, frankly.
This guy right off the bat is lying about what McCarthy was doing. Right off the bat.
Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead.
McCarthy was searching for communists in American government. Okay.
And in Hollywood.
In Hollywood.
He destroyed people's lives. He destroyed people's careers. He falsely accused people of being communists. Go ahead.
Yes. My parents worked in the church, in the Senate office building. My mother worked for the senator from Wyoming. My father worked in an office, another office. He was in the Air Force at the time, I think, and worked in another office in the Senate office building. And Dad told me that when McCarthy got on the elevator, that back then you had a guy and a bellhop in the elevator who would control the elevator, go up and down the floors, okay? And he would stop the elevator either above or below the floor that he had to get off on. And Joe McCarthy always had a couple of hookers with him most of the time, said Dad saw him, and he was always drunk.
No.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Gross.
Oh yeah, he was. Nobody liked him. Nobody liked him when Dad worked in what they call a Marriott, the Marriott of Marriott. You know, the Marriott.
Yeah.
They ran. They ran what are called hot shops. They were a corner restaurant in the Senate office building. My dad worked in one of those offices. And he said every time McCarthy came in, people left.
I can imagine.
So
that was some army.
Oh, he was bad. He's very bad.
But he has, so this man, who again can't be stated enough, is quote unquote the national director. He insists on not being called the Grand Imperial Wizard anymore. It's like nobody uses that term anymore. But it's what he is. It's the same role. This guy is the head of the Klan. And he tells this. He asks this young man, he's like, "You know who Joseph McCarthy was?" And he says, "No." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You kidding? Oh my gosh! You don't even know who Joe McCarthy was." And we're going to get into that here in a little bit. There's people who don't know
everything, and everybody he accused, like 90% of it, they were not a communist. Maybe one or two were, but it's been proven that everything he said was all made up and a lie. That he was either fed or created on his own.
And Ayn Rand was a big part of it.
Ayn Rand was big, yeah.
This is one of my stories I tell all the time. One of the things that really pisses me off, a story that pisses me off. I don't know if you know about film. You guys remember a little film called "It's a Wonderful Life"?
Yes.
Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
And Frank Capra film, one of the best films, frankly, ever. I mean, just everything
Great
about
movie.
this movie is a great movie. It's heartwarming. It's funny. It's classic of classics, right?
Right.
Winter season. I know tons of crap about this movie. It's one of my favorite movies to collect Hollywood lore on. Like they filmed it in July, so all the actors were sweating to death. They wanted to have realistic looking snow on the ground of Bedford Falls, which was really a backlot in like Van Nuys or something. And they had this, and so they took a spray paint, a spray gun, and they spray painted cornflakes, and they would blow cornflakes so that when they would walk on it, it would crunch like snow and stuff. But Ayn Rand, old atheist, cold-hearted person she was.
Cunt.
Stop. Okay. As Christopher Hitchens would say, I've been invited to be unpleasant at the expense of Ayn Rand. But she exposed him, Frank Capra, who was an immigrant, or like he came to America from Italy when he was a child, I think, and volunteered to serve with the armed forces when America went to war, made documentaries, basically propaganda films on why we're fighting the Germans. I mean, and she accused him she reported him in to the House Un-American Activities Committee, saying this guy is employing communists to make communism propaganda, like this film, It's a Wonderful Life. And her whole basis was that Mr. Potter, who is played by old Barrymore, what's his name?
Lionel Barrymore.
Lionel Barrymore was a heavy, which means that he represented, over-bloated capitalism. And so, it turns out, and so she said that he was employing blacklisted actors, blacklisted writers to write and rewrite the film.
They weren't blacklisted at the time.
Yeah, I think Turnbull was, but they didn't know. But
Okay.
Frank Capra worked hard to keep it under wraps that Turnbull was writing on the film, that he was paying Turnbull, as a lot of people were back then. Anyways, so that's the House Un-American Activities Committee and McCarthyism. It was a dark time for America.
And I'll just say one thing: it was just people exploring philosophies, different philosophies. It wasn't a take over the government of America kind of a thing. It was just like, here's another way of thinking, and so they're exploring a different way of thinking. And it was just terrible that they thought they were going to nip something in the bud when it was just people, and trying something else out. And
it shouldn't be illegal to be a card-carrying socialist in a country that supposedly you can have whatever ideas you want.
That's right. That's what the word free means.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, but didn't matter because half the people they accused were just New Deal Democrats anyways.
That's right.
Going after the communists, the leftists and liberals within our State Department. They are naturally drawn to politics, and because politics has so much control, maybe the wrong word, influence over our society. Mm-hmm. And then I became more aware of what we today call white genocide.
Thomas then recites statistics to Bryce about supposed white replacement, and Bryce doesn't challenge this at all. This culminates in Thomas expressing some familiar talking points.
In 1980, okay, we're somewhere around 72% white, or 92% white. Okay, they're saying we're being invaded by massive non-white immigration come to this country.
Wait.
We're told that we're all the
hold
same.
On. And go ahead.
He's leaving out the Native Americans
and
the blacks.
Can you imagine?
He's leaving out Native Americans, blacks, Chinese, Asians, Latinos.
I wonder how that oversight could possibly have happened. I mean, it must be forgetful. It must be losing it in his old age.
He must have prefrontal dysplasia, just like the president does.
Hey, we don't know. That's we're going to be dragging that guy into this enough as it is.
Why is it going to be a change in culture, politics, education, values?
At this point, we're about 10 minutes into the video, and Bryce hasn't pushed back at all. This is very typical Klan rhetoric, which they've been pushing for decades, if not over a century, yes. But it's certainly not foreign to mainstream conservative Christian audiences at this point. Charlie Kirk, the founder and leader of Turning Point USA, taught this Great Replacement conspiracy theory himself.
The Great Replacement of white people is far more sinister than any redistricting project. That is at the core of the Democrat project, at the core. But it's deathly serious. You shouldn't take what she says seriously. It's just a joke. What she represents is very serious.
Okay, I just want to be clear before I go on and get the first complaint of somebody saying, you're celebrating his blah, 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 blah. We're not celebrating anything. I'm just pointing out, as are my associates, both atheist and otherwise, agnostic and otherwise, that this guy gets lionized as being this great, free speech advocate. But the truth is, he spoke his mind, and oftentimes some pretty racist stuff came out. And what he said is what he said, and it deserves to be played. So
he was a useful fool. He was a useful fool. Is what he was.
He was. Well, and there's an interesting case to be made for that. He actually was a secularist, and that he probably did believe in God. He was Christian, but at the start of Turning Point USA, he used to always introduce people and used to always talk about cultural differences and stuff. But anytime somebody would bring religion into it, he'd say, I think that's important for us to keep religion separate from any of my activism. But then Turning Point USA wasn't making any money, wasn't turning out crowds. And so then he went full opposite direction. And then all of a sudden, the money comes in, the kids start showing up, students start showing up, So that's so yeah, it's important to highlight. This is what the man said. This is who we're dealing with.
Continue attempt to eliminate the white population in this country.
Bryce's latest guest on his podcast, Tucker Carlson, also promotes this KKK-born idea.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. But why? Well, Joe Biden just said it. To change the racial mix of the country. That's the reason, to reduce the political power of people whose ancestors lived here and dramatically increase the proportion of Americans newly arrived from the third world. This policy is called the Great Replacement, the replacement of legacy Americans with more obedient people from faraway countries.
We don't like the people who live here, and they want to change the population. That's why.
It's about mass demographic replacement.
Of course.
To Bryce, then, I doubt this conspiracy theory appears to be born of the Klan. It's more likely he sees this as the Klansmen espousing typical conservative Christian talking points here.
See, this is why part of why I love Genetically Modified Skeptic. He is fair almost to a fault as much as he can be. And this is a good assessment. This is true. So at no point is there being made the claim here that the Klan is at the heart of what, like the Klan started TPUSA, or that they're directing TPUSA or anything like that. As far as we know, there's no direct association between the Klan and any of the Mormons, frankly, who are currently running TPUSA as it is. I should probably say the whole thing, Turning Point USA. But what is amazing here, and I had never seen anybody compile it all together like this, as well as these guys did at Genetically Modified Skeptic, that, if two tastes of this soup, of these two soups, show that they are the same soup. They are repeating each other's rhetoric, and that gets really interesting here as they start digging into not only things that Charlie Kirk was saying, but things that people were saying at Charlie Kirk's funeral. Oops, I think I may have screwed up here.
Back in the 50s.
Joseph invaded by massive.
White people do become a minority in
replacement, the replacement of legacy Americans with more obedient.
He is. However mainstream, though, this conspiracy theory is baseless. No group, elite or otherwise, is planning to diminish the presence of white people in America or Europe. There is no evidence for any such plan, and besides, if white people do become a minority in any given place, why is that concerning? Well, proponents of the Great Replacement conspiracy theory say non-white people are biologically and thus culturally and civilizationally inferior to white people, so letting non-white people coexist as equals with white people leads to the degeneration of Anglo-Saxon Protestant civilization. And yes, Charlie Kirk taught this, but we'll get into that later. For now, more from Thomas.
Our society had been devalued over the past 40, 50 years. And you sit and wonder why has it become devalued? Is because we have had this intrusion of foreign people that did not assimilate into our culture or our faith. And so we have a nation today that welcomes trans, welcomes sodomy, promotes pornography, which was a Jewish institution, which if you question me on that, I can show you why. Promote all kinds of values, trashes Christianity, trashes Jesus Christ every opportunity by national media. But Christians said, no, you will not trans my kids. You're not going to turn my kids into sodomites. You're not going to force them to devalue the Christian faith.
Okay. Just want to point out here, not that I recommend the book to anyone. I have read it. I am both proud and ashamed to say this could be a book jacket summary of Mein Kampf right here. What this guy just did. It's almost exactly everything that Hitler said. So just so we're clear.
And so, because of national media, which is controlled by Jews, the national media then takes those people and demonizes them.
Again, this is mainstream right-wing rhetoric, which Turning Point USA propagates.
Now, just to be clear, just to be fair, we're not going to show any Shen Yun. You want to talk about cults? There's a cult and a half there for you. You guys know much about Shen Yun. Where was I going with that? What was he just saying? Say again. About mainstream. So yes, these are mainstream talking points. The difference is that generally when Turning Point USA or any other organization is going to talk about the same subjects, they dog whistle it by replacing the Jews with communists, leftists, socialists, foreigners, foreign invaders, liberals, so-called liberals, non-classical liberals, because classical liberals are them, supposedly. Things like this. Just take out the word Jew, put in anything that implies atheists, leftists, or communists or collectivists in any way, and it all flies and passes through the censors. So this is why these people will try to tell you, have been trying to convince people for years, these people being the Klan, that the Holocaust never happened, so that they can get back to saying it the way they want to say it. But meanwhile, they have to sell it as this is the left. So, but we're going to go. So this is where things started. This is where I went from, damn it, Genetically Modified Skeptic scooped me, and he's got a great story. Really, it's a great video. We're not going to watch the whole thing, obviously, but very worth the watch. It's a 40-minute video and very well put together. But this is where I went, oh boy, here we go. This is it. Okay, I'm going to get my ex-Mormon ass in this conversation after all.
For many decades, there have been people who are trying to fundamentally change who we are.
In case anybody's not clear, this is Ben Carson.
An idiot. a brain surgeon who was an idiot.
A brilliant brain surgeon.
A brilliant brain surgeon.
And
he's
flat
an
earther. I don't know that he thinks the earth is flat, but probably. And Seventh-day Adventist, as far as I know. So.
Oh, okay.
And there was a man by the name of Cleon Skousen who wrote a book called The Naked Communist in the 50s. And he exposed the things that were being done by the Marxists. They also had a goal of gaining control of the media and Hollywood so they could change the culture in America, making sexual perversion normal, natural, and healthy. And speaking of that, pushing God out of our society and changing the gospel to the social gospel.
Now, I know you didn't hear the phrase "the Jews" explicitly in those turning.
So good. So so now we're all caught up to the start of the major controversy, because we're going to get into some stuff about this is what we're here to talk about, because Cleon Skousen absolutely is a part of the problem. And I just want to point out before we move on here, in case if you guys don't want to jump in, you're welcome to. But it's not of non-significance. It's a nice double negative there for you. It's not
non-significant.
It's not.
It's extremely significant. It's an extremely significant book.
Oh, okay. Yes, that. But I was referring to, it's not non-significant that currently Turning Point USA is almost entirely run by Mormons. That, as far as I know, at least the primary leadership it's really a Mormon institution. That's partly why Candace Owens, who I do not endorse in any way, has been going off the rails with her theories, basically that the Mormons did Charlie Kirk in and so on and so forth. I'm not here to push any of that, but this is significant to when he drew this connection, it turned on so many lights for me, because I am a recovered Skousenite. I grew up in Phoenix. I grew up just revealing a little bit about myself here. I'm Exmo Joe. Here, I'll pull up with my friends a little bit here. Hi, I'm Exmo Joe, alias Joe Rollins. I grew up in a Skousenite cult of Mormon believers. Cleon Skousen, the guy we're talking about, has a son-in-law named Glenn Kimber, and Glenn Kimber was directly connected to their institution, which is called the Freeman Institute originally. Later transformed, that was controversial, so they transformed it into the National Center for Constitutional Studies. Same organization, same publications, everything else, just changed the name so that they could get more doors open to them to lobby in Washington. And but they started a school called Benjamin Franklin Academy, which became Benjamin Franklin Leadership Academy. And I was enrolled in that when I was 12, 13 years old. And we read Cleon Skousen texts all day long. We read our world history. Our first world history text was the first 1,000 years by Cleon Skousen. The next one was the second 1,000 years by Cleon Skousen. Then the third 1,000 years by Cleon Skousen. The 4,000 years. Then we had the 5,000-year leap. Yes, we read everything but The Naked Communist. And when it was summertime, I walked over to the bookshelf and picked up that book off the shelf, and it was The Naked Communist. I read The Naked Communist on my free time. I was a Skousen head. We'll get into that maybe if there's time. But suffice it to say, this is all very, very, very fair. So that's I just want to preface it with that before we go on. Oops. I'm going to bring my friends back.
Point clips, but rest assured, that's still in there. Kirk blamed non-Christians, which includes Jews, for American degeneracy, of course. But further, that book, which Ben Carson promoted at Kirk's memorial, was written by a man who was so far right that even the FBI had him on a watch list in the 1960s. And
okay, first of all, true, fair, Also, if you weren't on a list at the FBI, if J. Edgar Hoover didn't have you on a list at the FBI, you weren't doing enough. I will say that much. But he was on there for the wrong reasons.
His followers were known to burn crosses on the lawns of political officials they resented.
So that happened one time, as far as I'm aware. What they did is they would, you call it burning crosses, you call it lighting crosses. They make a big point, that the Klan, including in this interview we're going to watch, but we're not going to watch this part. There's this point where this young man asks the head of the Klan, he's like, why do you burn crosses? And he's like, light crosses. He's like, yeah, okay. But what I was asking about when you burn crosses, and the guy's like, light crosses. It's a very significant point to them. It's like only the media calls it burning crosses. We call it lighting crosses, and it's a big difference. That's their thing. Okay. But what happened was that Cleon Skousen was fired from being police chief in Salt Lake City. And after he was, some of his supporters allegedly went to the mayor of Salt Lake City's house and lit crosses on fire in his yard. And so that's where it got, there comes this connotation. Who knows how fair it is, how fair it is to mention that, I don't know why they would do that if they didn't want to be associated with the Klan. But most Mormons, I think, probably were not terribly proud to have anything to do with the Klan. Not that it was necessarily Mormons who did it.
Like the Klan does.
I mean, that is fair to say. I mean, what else? I mean, what other reason do you do it? I don't know.
Also, the whole cultural Marxism conspiracy theory is quite literally a rebranding of anti-Jewish conspiracy theories in the first place. Bryce then asks,
you mentioned the phrase earlier outside, and you mentioned it again a moment ago, white nationalism. Yeah. That's something that you can, I just want you to define white nationalism for yourself so I don't take anything out of context. What is white nationalism according to you?
Well, white nationalism really would be white Christian nationalism. Okay. Is the identity of a people. We have a people worth preserving.
Yes, the KKK is explicit about its project being one of white Christian nationalism, and it always has been. They want a country with one culture. And
just want to point this out real quick, that because I find this of significance. I'm not sure if Kai Schwimmer is exactly connected into Turning Point USA. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what his association is with all this right wing, but he basically does the similar things. There's this young Mormon podcaster by the name of Kai Schwimmer, and he likes to go online and do all kinds of content. And then I think he's actually live right now, actually talking about that Jake Lang, the guy, the J6 rioter who got pardoned and then showed up in Minneapolis today, apparently with a police escort to escort him around while he counter protested to the protesters in Minneapolis. Only apparently the police didn't show up. Oh. He got caught out by himself and wound up running with his tail tucked between his legs. He's the guy that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago that Nick Shirley was interviewing and platforming because who was going around preaching the gospel with a literal crusader / fascist slogan on the podium that he was carrying, that he carries around. That's that guy.
Anglo-Saxon Christian culture. You can probably see where I'm going with this.
That men can.
Oh, but I was mentioning Kai Schwimmer. So Kai Schwimmer actually does content where he actually did a debate with, of all people, our friend of the program, Jacob Hansen of Thoughtful Faith, who they debated over whether or not Mormons, because he is LDS, whether or not Mormons should support Christian nationalism. And it's like a whole thing. Jake Lang is the guy's name. I don't know if I said that right. Huggy's correcting me in case I got that wrong. Yes, that's right. Jake Lang.
Men and women can be women. We want a nation that speaks English, has a unified culture, that values God again, that has not been taken over by the communist Chinese. or by radical Islamism.
Yeah, I do wonder what was going through Bryce's head at this moment, because it's pretty clear that the main difference between the Grand Wizard and Bryce's Turning Point USA hero is that the former explicitly states that he wants a single white Christian culture, and the latter says he wants a single Christian culture, and then heavily implies the white part. Bryce very briefly pushes back for the first time in this video soon after this moment, and their disagreement actually makes them appear even more similar.
What's really important is your white Christian national is who you are as a people. When a child is born, I would refer to this as the birth covenant. When a child is born, it's not say, oh, there's a baby lawyer, there's a baby architect, there's a baby YouTuber, there's a baby accountant. God only gave that baby 2 identification marks. Am I right?
Yeah, male or female.
Well, male or female, that's one identification. What was the other one?
What's the one that you're talking about?
Race.
Now,
race and gender.
Now let's.
Oh boy.
That's how you were classified.
Okay, so now I'll say this: genetically modified skeptic, he was right up until this point. This young man is trying to be polite, and he definitely went easy on the guy, and even agreed with him on a lot of stuff up until this point. This is the point where Bryce, I keep forgetting his last name. This young man, this right-wing kid. This is where he actually does start pushing back, because he obviously comes from a tradition that believes that Christianity should not be racist.
Right.
It's interesting as they go back and forth to note how they both make these scriptural claims from the Bible about how racism is or isn't supported. And frankly, it's hard to suss out exactly which one of them is wrong.
That's why race and gender. Yeah. Now, those are things that someone can't control. They can control how they're like, I couldn't control that I was born from a white family and then I was born a boy. I couldn't control that, right?
So Thomas cites race as an immutable, God-assigned identity in order to say that it is legitimate to demand that we act according to God-assigned roles for that identity. For him, that means having different countries for different races. Bryce agrees with this logic of God-assigned identities and roles, just not for race.
I believe that in the Bible, God designed a man and a woman to come together.
Anyways, I'm going to skip ahead before I have a whole separate video to get to here, but let me just skip ahead and see if I can get caught up here, because that part of the interview was
above the powers of heaven to be like the Most High, And most people say, well, that because he wants to be worshipped, he wants to be like God.
Okay, so so this is important. Here they're getting into this argument about how race is supported in the Old Testament. And he leads it off. This is the Klan leading off with, let's talk about the devil. And so they're talking about Satan here.
Well, I don't think that's what he's saying. He wants to be the lawgiver. He wants to be the lawgiver and determine the law that governs our lives. And he wants to be that lawgiver. And there's this rebellion. And the rebellion we see being manifested in the Jewish religion today, and by those who we normally call ethnic Jews. They're not true Jews. In fact, Arthur Koestler, in the book The 13th Tribe, talks about that the massive conversion of the Khazars to Judaism and to the Talmudic religion. And he said the normal person, and Arthur Koestler was a Jewish historian, he's the normal European has more Israel blood in them than the typical Jews of today.
So would you...
So that can't just go.
Well, but it's true that the Khazars were converted to Judaism. The Jews in Israel today are Khazarians. They are not genetically. I have Ashkenazi and Sephardic DNA in my body because I come from. Okay, and the ones who took over Israel are Catharians, Khazar, right? And but they're not genetically, they're not Jews. That's why you cannot do a DNA test in Israel.
Yeah, but of course that doesn't make them any less or more religiously Jewish, right?
No, not at all.
They have an ethnic claim if they have an ethnic claim, And, but neither here nor there. The claim he's really getting to here, and the reason why this suddenly ties into more and more with Mormonism, is the claim he is making here, and he's going to make more of the case for it here, is that he is an Israelite, that he is from the lost 10 tribes of Israel. And that's a concept known as British Israelitism. It was very big from 17th century onward, especially into the 18th century and 19th centuries, and especially with a young entrepreneurial religion cultist by the name of Joseph Smith Jr. This is Mormonism in a nutshell, is this idea that white people are Israelites and Jews are not. They're not real. They're not real Israelites.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's what we're
Consider
getting.
yourself a real Israelite?
Correct.
And what deems you a real Israelite?
Well, racially, is Israel came out in 7 invasions, 4 by Assyria and 3 by Babylon, 7 different invasions. Millions of Israelites were transported out of Palestine. They went through the Caucasus Mountains into Europe. They went through the Azores Pass, which is where Istanbul is at today, and many of them traveled by sea into the Britannic Islands. In fact, the Scottish Declaration of Independence, signed in 1320, states that they are from Israel. And
okay, so all of that is British Israelitism. This is this ancient claim about the heritage, about tracking migrations, mainly by tracking what's contained in the Old Testament, and then trying to make out whatever way they can to say we in England and or certain other Western European countries were all the lost tribes of Israel, without accounting for the myriad number of places people were from back then, and the absolute lack of evidence to this day that they carry any of the same blood of, so it's like trying to prove somebody a Lamanite, who came from the family of Lehi. It's just, it's almost exactly the same. The Book of Mormon is basically the same claim, but about indigenous Americans, about Native Americans, that they are of the lost 10 tribes of Israel. And Joseph Smith himself believed that he, who was a very white man from very English stock, was of the house of Israel, not symbolically, not adopted, literally a descendant.
Literally believed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he claimed he was the descendant of Jesus Christ.
He did make that claim.
I'm a mudblood.
Oh yeah. What tribe are you? See, here's the funny thing. We're talking about how this is how the lost tribes of Israel thing is such a racist concept. Every person you see here on the screen, well, at least this side of the screen, has a patriarchal blessing that tells us which tribe of Israel we're from. Right?
Ephraim, I'm Ephraim, right?
What about you, Gene?
I got at least 1.5% of Neanderthal tribe.
Do you really have Neanderthal DNA? Some people do.
That's what I think it said.
Ah, cool. Interesting.
So yeah, adopted into Ephraim.
I'm from the Neanderthals. I'm Manasseh, which
really?
Which I think is my because you remember that Lehi was from Manasseh.
Right.
My sisters were from Ephraim. They were white. They looked white. And my brother and I both looked dark. We got more of my mother's coloring, and we were both from Manasseh. My stake president, some of you will know this name out there, was a man by the name of Stanley Turley. Just about the Mormonist name you've ever heard of. He was Speaker of the House of Representatives in Arizona, and the main guy who got to oppose Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday being added as a holiday. Those are some of his claims to fame. Yeah, gem of a human.
Migrated into the nations of Europe and became the people of Europe.
So how do you know you're an Israelite, like a true Israelite?
Well, I mean, I guess because I'm of Europe. I'm a European, and that's where Israel settled.
So who is Israel exactly? A literal ethnic group, according to your according to your theological perspective? You believe that like Israel, that this group of people is a literal ethnic group, and you're a part of that ethnic group.
Correct.
Okay, so
But what about the migrations and the millions of Israelites into Europe? Well, I don't know migration of millions of blacks into Europe.
Well, I feel like do you think that the Israelites were white?
Well, yeah, of course they were.
You think the Israelites were white?
Adam, they're from Adam. Adam means white.
We have photos to prove it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, have you never gone to get your endowments out, dude? I mean, come on.
So I'll have to say that as an insurance policy, I married a Jewish woman.
Ah, very good. Fire
so that
insurance.
my kids can claim either one, sort of like Paul, the apostle, where he says, I'm a citizen of Rome. I'm from the Sanhedrin. He was a man for all seasons.
Oh man, this guy.
Suffice it to say, this is a pretty racist point of view about the Bible, but it's very consistent with Mormonism. I mean, Mormons believed that it says in the Book of Mormon that these Israelites who came over to the Americas, the Nephites, were white and delightsome. You know, that this was part of Joseph Smith's ideology as well. He's going to strike off a little on his own here, and we're going to see the difference between Mormons and the Klan pretty quick on this.
And he has it all wrong. I mean, his version of history is all wrong.
Right. Yeah, I mean, not that Joseph Smith was better.
No, but you know, I mean, the Jews, the Israelites went to Europe. Excuse me, where else did they go? They went to Africa. They were black Africans. Okay, years ago, can't remember what, Nova did a program about the Ethiopian Jews. These black Jews were more genetically Jewish than any other population in the world. I mean,
Sammy Davis Jr.
And they moved them to Israel. Okay. And they were practicing the way of Judaism. And there's an island somewhere, I don't remember if it's in Ethiopia or not, where they found buried on the island the breastplate and the stones. Mm-hmm. They found a thing that was made just like that in Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. So it looks like that the Jews, that the Levites, when they left Jerusalem, they went down to Ethiopia and then they put the stuff, buried it on an island.
Right, but this guy's negotiating the scriptures to say that since there's lost tribes that went to the land northward, that the land northward must be Europe.
Well, see, and then you've got the thing about the English wanted Jerusalem. They believed Jerusalem was theirs and that they had claim to it because they're kings.
Yeah. So in any event, his version of history is not sustained by any historical evidence whatsoever.
Or any science.
Or
any of the science disciplines.
Oh, we still have yet to get into the science. The science is going to be a whole trip to itself.
How do you know that they're white?
Can I look at their descendants today?
Yeah, but hold on.
Now there's some circular reasoning there.
Oh boy.
These white people are descended from Israel. How do you know they're from descendants? Because they're white.
Because they're white.
Everyone's a descendant of Adam and Eve.
Are they?
I believe so.
Well, there's where we differ.
Because science would say you and I, in the same way my Hebrew Israelite friends in LA, right? Even though they have a darker pigmentation, we have a lighter pigmentation, we all share 99.98% of the same mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondrial DNA comes from our mom.
People who don't know science should not talk science. It's going to become very apparent why here.
Oh, that's right.
You realize that you almost share the same amount of DNA as a mouse?
I did not. But what kind of DNA?
That is not true. Just so we're clear.
Everything on the earth has the same DNA, but 2 or 3%. Everything is created on the earth.
We're all related to the trees somewhere up the line. But to say that because our DNA is similar in structure, it means that we are all, closely related to animals and as closely related to especially rodents, as we are to other human beings.
Yes.
I do like cheese, so I don't know if that is a tie-in.
Me too.
Well,
Me
they're
too.
Neanderthals like Gene, but
No, like mice, just like mice like cheese. I like cheese.
Yeah, they're crossbred cheese mouse Neanderthals like Gene.
Like 98% of our body structure, DNA is the same as in a mouse, because God used basic structure that all mammals are made from. That He used basics.
Now, first of all, you can tell that this. Okay, so first of all, this conversation started with this young man Bryce making the claim about mitochondrial DNA, and then the answer from this guy coming across with human DNA, which is a completely different kind of DNA, right? DNA, yeah, it's a DNA. Mitochondrial DNA is the DNA that replicates mitochondria, which, cool fact, is basically an alien species that hitches a ride in every cell in our bodies, which is kind of badass when you think about it. There's a completely different DNA from the DNA in the nucleus of the cell. But no matter, we're just going to go off on this tangent that you're going to go, why would you make a claim like this if you don't know the science? And it's going to be clear why the head of the Klan is doing
structure
this right now.
So to say there's a 99% or 98%, I covered in my book, The Last Church, which I think you've been reading, and so I don't remember the figures, but the percentage of difference between, say, you and a black man from Africa being just like 1 or 2 tiny percent, that same amount, just slightly different, is between you and a mouse.
Yeah, but there's a big difference, because the mouse isn't made in the image of God. Jesus makes that distinction in Matthew chapter 6. The animals of the air.
You're making an assumption that all races came from Adam.
Well,
you're making an assumption there.
Okay, let me ask another question.
All right.
Do you believe that black people are made in the image of God?
No.
Do you believe that?
And it depends what you mean by the image of God. But no, they're certainly not made in the spirit of God. When you say the image of God, what does that mean?
Okay, so this is about the point in time where I think I'm going to switch over to the other video here. But basically, this is where this man is beginning to realize that he thought he was going to get a free ride out of this kid just to, come and platform, try to bring back the Klan in this modern age, and it's not going like he thought it would. So
no.
Yeah. I know. Can you imagine? So I think we've had about enough of this guy.
What's amazing is the kid has got some brains. The kid's asking some good questions.
I mean,
so
he at least has enough education at Liberty University of all places to know that the modern Christianity really has pretty thoroughly tried to remove any elements of this racist false history from their understanding of biblical history. And kudos to them for trying, for at least trying. So I mean, you wouldn't expect this from Jerry Falwell's crew. Speaking of, let's blow this other video file. Okay, so this is going to be, we're going to get a little bit more into Skousen. So this is when I said, look, I think I'm going to explore a little bit more on the program about this man, Cleon Skousen. I'm just going to load the file here
in just a moment.
Okay, so I just want to clarify here again. So I was a Skousenite. I was brought up on and, fed the constant diet of Skousenite version of history and theories and philosophies. And so I immediately began to realize as they were talking about this, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why all of this stuff, I just always think of it. I tend to think of all of these claims as being just right-wing philosophy. But now after watching this episode yesterday, again, kudos to Genetically Modified Skeptic. It totally turned on my brain. I realized, oh my gosh, we have been fed this, when this is how I figured out that Charlie Kirk and the guys at Turning Point USA, which again is very largely made up of Mormons, have been basically feeding, once they decided to get serious about everybody taking them seriously as Christian nationalists who want to preach the gospel, not just get politically active and get students politically active on campuses, but actually preach the gospel, save their souls, convince them, radicalize them as Christians. They just started feeding them a steady diet of the Naked Communist by Cleon Skousen / the 5,000 Year Leap by Cleon Skousen. And so that's why which is so similar to this theology of the Klan, that you, again, like I said, two tastes of these two soups shows pretty clearly they're the same soup. Are they causally linked? Somewhere in some places, but even if they weren't, they're so similar that it's hard to deny they were coming up in the same culture, in the same time frame, and in the same groups. And that's when I started looking into just the YouTube history. Come to find out, in the past 5 years, all across this evangelical scope, especially since Ben Carson started talking about Cleon Skousen, all of these Christians started reading The Naked Communist, this seriously debunked bad history of communism, written by an FBI agent who was Mormon, as many FBI agents are, from the 50s, back in the 50s, when he was tracking suspected Soviets during the McCarthy era, the same era that this man, the head of the Klan, was saying that his parents were politically active with Joseph McCarthy and the House Un-American Activities Committee. It's like you start to see, it turns out the political and religious beliefs of your parents turned out to be the truth of your whole life. Imagine that. I can't imagine how that happened. So this is one video that I found. I don't want to shame this man, but this is a very good demonstration of how Turning Point USA's talking points, which they're always bringing up these 45 points of communism. They're dripping these very points that this guy's going to bring up all the time. But here's a guy completely outside of their system, for all I know, basically going over the same system as if he got an assignment, like it's a book club.
And it is about communism. And it is about, let me go ahead and I'll bring it up for you. It's about this man right here. Let's see if I can bring it up. This man, Cleon and Jewel Skousen. Some would say Skousen. That's his name.
Yeah, they would. I actually served my mission with his grandson, who, by the way, Joe Skousen, when you see this, I hope we can be friends again someday, because we were actually pretty good friends.
Now, he died in 2006. He was an author. He wrote many books. He was a Christian man. He was part of the Mormon faith when you study him out and everything. So, but he was well versed in the Bible and with in general the biblical foundation of the family, the scriptural foundation of the family. He wrote a book. Let me take him off here. He wrote a book, and it was called The Naked Communist. And it's about exposing communism and restoring freedom. Now, I've got that book. I downloaded it on my tablet here. I got the...
By the way, interesting story. This is not the cover this is the new cover that his sons have rebranded it. Right. The original cover was a red cover with a black figure of a kind of Bauhaus looking art style Soviet man, and which is very telling in of itself. It came up in a conversation of all people with Jennifer Finlayson Fife in my documentary. I was doing my documentary about Mormons and sex, and she was talking about being a young woman in the church, being a young Mormon girl, and that one of her guilty pleasures was to take off that book off the shelf, just look at it and think that's what men look like, and then put it back.
Oh, wow.
I said, that book's about that book was by Cleon Skousen, and she's like, what?
Version of it, the ebook of it, and got it downloaded and everything. See, where did I put it at? It's right here. Here we go. So let's listen to this lady right here. You ready?
Occasionally I'll read a Bible story and post it on a ladies' Bible class group page, but I feel really weird about making videos of myself talking, but I know a lot of times people tend to, especially in this day and age, will watch a video and will listen to a video.
Okay, so this is the video that we're going to watch right here. It's this young lady. She someone had passed this information to her, communism, and this was read into the Florida State House so that it would be recorded within the American history.
I think their comment was something like the words of the naked communist are coming to be, and I thought, what? So did a little bit of Googling and realized that there was a book written by a man named Cleon Skousen. Mr. Skousen was an American citizen. I think he was a member of the FBI, but he don't know much about the guy. But I did Google something, and I printed this off to look at a little bit closer when I got home tonight, and I've done that, and I just want to share some stuff with you guys that
everybody
you
listen
may
up to what she's going to say
know.
here.
I hope we can all agree, or most of us can agree, that communism never ends well. If you don't believe me, just look at history, look at all the communistic countries, and look at what communism has done for them. Anyway, just wanted to read, I'm not going to read all of these, but I highlighted some points because this was read, apparently, current communist goals. And this was read in January of 1963. This is even before I was born. 1963. Keep in mind that that's when this was read in the U.S. House of Representatives. And history teachers, you all can correct me if I'm wrong or comment and expound a little bit more about this man. Again, I don't know much about him, but he wrote a book called The Naked Communist, and this is apparently an excerpt from that was read to our U.S. House of Representatives in 1963. Here are some of his points. Current communist goals. These are goals of the Communist Party. Number 6.
They are not. So just before we get into some of these, I want to go over just some of these so that you get a flavor for it, so that as we go on, you're going to see, oh, wait a minute, that came up, or in a moment, it's going to come up again. You're going to see this in Turning Point USA's content. You're going to see it in that conversation with this young man, Bryce, and this head of the Klan. And we're going to see it here in a minute. We're going to hear about it from a conference where Dr. Skousen, if we can call him that, spoke at a conference for the Unification Church, which, if you don't know, is also known as the Church of Reverend Moon.
The Moonies.
And the Moonies, baby. And it's quite an interesting thing to see how this it does all tie together.
6. Provide American aid to all nations, regardless of communist domination. Number 11, skipping down, promote the UN as the only hope for mankind. If its charter is rewritten, demand that it be set up as a one-world government with its own independent armed forces. Here's a couple of them. It gets better. Number 12, resist any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party. Number 13, do away with all loyalty oaths. An oath, I hope you know what an oath is. Like when someone takes office, they swear by an oath or affirm by an oath. It's like a promise. Loyalty, what popped in my mind was the Pledge of Allegiance.
Again, this is like, it's like reading the Bible. They just like apply it to themselves. They just interpret it however they want. Again, Cleon Skousen's work was pretty well debunked in this. First of all, there is no such thing as a communist state. It doesn't exist. The very concept of communism is anti-state. The idea of communism is that a commune should be the ruling unit in the world. The ideas behind the Soviet Union were far more shaped by Engels, Trotsky, people beyond Marx, and people who think Marxism is one and the same with the Soviet Union. Well, we were educated in the Red Scare. That was
Right.
what we were told. We were fed
Exactly.
a steady diet of propaganda. Now, so if you look for a communist state in the world today or in history, there isn't one. There never has been.
Never has been.
That's right.
Do away with all loyalty oaths. Number 15, capture one or both of the political parties in the United States. Capture them. Number 16, use technical decisions of the courts to weaken basic American institutions by claiming their activities violate civil rights.
Okay. So again, both of those points came up in the interview with the head of the Klan. He brought up I didn't include this in the clips so far, but basically he claimed both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party had been infiltrated successfully by Marxists and leftists. Okay, sure, if you say so. But what I as a socialist would give to get the Democratic Party alone to get infiltrated by some leftist ideology, but whatever.
Kind of funny to me is that the Republicans stayed home in droves and did not vote for Romney because he was a Mormon. And here all these people are trumpeting the cause of Mormon Cleon Skousen.
Right.
So they don't really know who he is. But he wrote a book called The Naked Communist, so that's all right with me.
That's right.
Oh,
that's
boy.
Right.
Number 17, listen to this. Get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks. Number 18, gain control of all student newspapers. Number 19, use student rights to foment public protests against programs or organizations which are under communist attack.
So again, this is just a common trope in Turning Point USA. Really, it's a common, this has just become mainstream as far as I'm concerned, right-wing, talking points. All the universities, everybody who went to college has been brainwashed by the communist agenda, basically, is what they're saying.
Joe, you're saying that all these things that Cleon Skousen came up with were just he pulled out of his ass?
Well, yeah, effectively, yes. Yeah. I mean, basically, he would make references to actual historical documents and actual historical things, but then he would shift it into a lens of the gospel with and apply a bunch of racist dog whistles or a bunch of right-wing dog whistles to it, and just filter it out as if, listen, you can trust me. I worked for J. Edgar Hoover. I cannot tell a lie. That's what that means. So one of his favorite stories was to tell was how in California he used to go and install bugs in the floorboards of supposed Soviet agents.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Number 20, listen to this one. Infiltrate the press. Get control of book review assignments, editorial writing, policy making positions. Number 21, gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures.
Does any of this sound familiar yet?
All of it.
Basically, like I said, take Jews out, put communists in, and now all of a sudden it's been sanitized. This has changed from Klan rhetoric over to right wing.
Jews created communism, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and back near the turn of the 20th century, near the turn of the 19th century, excuse me, there was it was closer to the 20th century. It was the end of the 1800s. Yeah. They started, the Vatican published a document explaining basically that atheists and Jews had conspired to create democracy and communism, and that everything, and that it was all lies, that the devil used his agents, which obviously were us atheists, and then and the Jews, and that rhetoric just never went away. I mean, it just amplified from that point on throughout the war, and even after the war was over, it just kept on perpetuating.
And every time I turn on my television, you can't get away from it. Even the late night comedians who are supposed to be entertaining us with comedy, it seems like they're going to bust if they don't have something political to say. Number 22, continue discrediting American culture by degrading all forms of artistic expression. An American communist cell was told to, quote, eliminate all good sculptures from parks and buildings, substitute shapeless, awkward, and meaningless forms, end quote. Number 23, control art critics and directors of art museums. Our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art.
Now listen
And
to
I've
this.
seen a little bit of that.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And what I've seen, you're criticized because it's an art form. Number 24, this was a wow one for me. Eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and a violation of free speech and free press. Number 25, and we have arrived. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV.
Okay, anybody remember the conversation we were just listening in on with Bryce and this guy from the head of the KKK? So he said what he said about pornography. Did you catch that part?
They came from the Jews.
That the Jews invented porn. Invented pornography. And it's like, dude, a history book would do you a lot of good, guy. You go back and look at the Greeks. You go back and look at the Sumerians. You can go back and look at the Aztec and the Maya. Porn and humanity go back together for the longest.
From the very beginning.
Oh yeah, it's like, hey, we can make marks on this wall. What should we put?
Oh, I don't know.
Dress some boobs on there. Anyways, let's this is getting boring, but so basically these are your 45 talking points. So let's skip ahead here before we lose our the last hour of our program here. This is an actual speech. Let me just make sure I'm at the right place here. Yeah. This is a speech given by the man himself, by Dr. Cleon Skousen, to CAUSA, which was basically a mission of the Unification Church, or Moonies, in 1984.
He just
say again. Did you say something?
He looks like an elf or very evil.
I used to think this man, I thought this guy walked on water when I was a Mormon kid.
Wow.
I think I've told you guys the story before about my. I had heard. It was not long after President Packer, was then Elder Packer, I believe, gave the little factory talk. And I remember thinking that was the weirdest talk. I remember when I was a kid, right, a teenager, I was certain I was destined to become a general authority. I'm like, dude, these are the stories that we will tell, right?
Weren't we all?
Right.
Thought we were going to be GAs? Yeah.
Right. I still meet people who say otherwise. But yeah, I'm gonna be a general authority one of these days. This is gonna happen.
Oh,
I considered I might be Jesus' second coming once when I was like 8.
Cool.
Radical.
I had a shot. He hadn't come yet.
Right. Exactly.
We don't know that. I mean,
I could have been a contender for Jesus.
You could have been a contender. I could have been a contender.
We're gonna definitely age ourselves here. We are all 45. But I had gone to Salt Lake. I'd come here to Salt Lake and to hear Cleon Skousen speak one year. And this was in 95, I want to say. And I was 14 years old. And he got up there and he started talking. First, Glenn Kimber got up and talked and filled the hour until Cleon wanders in, and I was like, oh, you could feel the spirit change. The spirit of oh, there's the man. And he walks into the room, gives about 5-10 minutes worth of speaking. They lower, this is in a chapel. This is in an LDS chapel, in the chapel itself, not a church function. This is a Benjamin Franklin Leadership Academy function. But Cleon says, give me the chapel to use. You give him the chapel to use. So they lowered down the general conference screen, right? The one we watched the prophet on. And he said, I want to show you, this was a man we looked hard for when I was chief of police of Salt Lake City. Oh, wow. And he's like, and then he showed us James C. Dobson's interview, the last interview with Ted Bundy, hours before Ted Bundy was electrocuted. James C. Dobson, the man who famously wrote books about if you're not beating your children, it's because you want the devil to have them. And the guy who ran Focus on the Families back in the 80s, you'd hear Focus on the Family behind the pulpit in conference, right? Because of course, because one of Leon Skousen's dearest friends he met while he worked with in Washington, D.C. was none other than LDS apostle, future prophet, Ezra Taft Benson. Am I wrong? It was Benson, and these two guys were basically John Birch Society members, diehard conservatives who, at a time when there were still leaders in the Mormon Church who actually technically could be described as leftists. I mean, this was while J. Reuben Clark was still alive. Q.B. Brown.
J. Reuben Clark, yep.
People forget this now, but Mormon's origins were communist origins, pre-Marxian communist origins. They were Christian communists.
That's why in Story of the Latter-day Saints, Benson didn't like the word communitarianism.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
Yes.
I learned something the other day. This is why you get Tim Rathbone, ladies and gentlemen. This is how that happens. So that's when we got the big lecture from Ted Bundy that he never would have done any of the things he had done, and he knew that his soul was right with God. So don't worry about him. He's going to heaven. This is after the Mormon Church had excommunicated him about 2 months after he had been baptized. After his conviction for the aggravated kidnapping of Carol Durant. They hadn't even convicted him of murder. But to their credit, his branch president kicked him out. But now the evangelicals in Florida, where he had, I think it had like 2 stays of execution at least, and he wanted to get another one, but they were like, no, give him the chair. Let him fry. So he's basically making a last-ditch effort to get saved, or to get another stay of execution. But anyways, so his whole shtick was, I never would have done what I did to those girls and women if I hadn't gotten my hands on Playboy magazines that neighbors had thrown into their trash cans and read the gory detective novels.
What?
Both untrue things, all lies, typical of Ted Bundy. If the man's mouth was moving, he was probably lying. But he says, but you can judge me, and I understand that, and I think I should be held separate from society because I'm a dangerous criminal. He said, but I don't think that you should have me killed. Somebody should intervene. Somebody should call the governor and get me another stay, basically is what he's saying. He said, because you can judge me, but Jesus said not to do that. And each one of you out there, if you have HBO being piped into your homes through cable, and you take your children to the grocery store, Gene, you sinner. Oh, Tim, no wonder these apostates ended up where they are. And if you take your kids to the grocery store where they have Good Housekeeping and People magazine and Us Weekly on the stands, they're consuming dirtier shit than I was getting, all the time anyway, so you're just making little Ted Bundys at home.
I liked Glamour magazine, actually.
I was a big Red Book fan, but as people who have been fans and friends of the program for a long time know, my guilty pleasure was the Sunday Mervin's catalog in the bra and panty section. Unbelievable.
Oh, it's a Sears Roebuck catalog.
Yeah. Who was it that I was talking to? Oh, I was talking to Renee Steelman. And she's like, not the Sears catalog? I said, no, they have tools in there. And I definitely would never get out of the room if I found tools too. Let's hear. So that's all he did. He played us the last video of Ted Bundy. And then that weekend I went to church and I asked to speak with the bishop. And I got the For Young Men Only pamphlet with the little factory talk. Scarred me for life. Again.
Standing O.
These Moonies, man, I thought Mormons loved this guy. Moonies apparently were over the moon about him.
I feel very humble after that welcome and that beautiful introduction by someone for whom I have a great affection and great admiration. I congratulate you for being here. When I think of the youth of this land, they're lost, wandering, perplexed, and I look into your faces, you know where you're going. You know what you have to do. You know that you live in a time of divine destiny.
Okay, so Tim, what do you know that people at home don't know about who this man is and who he's talking to and what he's saying?
These are Moonies.
Moonies.
He's talking to.
He's not talking to Mormons. He's the only Mormon in the room. Yes. Now, those of you who don't know, Reverend Moon believed that Jesus had been the original Messiah, but that he had failed, and that's why God had sent him instead, Reverend Moon.
Right.
And to the best of my knowledge, Cleon Skousen never, ever denounced him. It's like he's an active Mormon, but he's there telling these people that they're right about Reverend Moon. It's like,
wow.
Gosh. At the end of the day, so this is just after, if my history is correct, which sometimes it isn't. This is right after they're going to make several references to Reverend Moon's hearings and or trial after he got caught on some tax evasion, and because he basically felt he didn't owe anybody taxes. At this point in time, the Freeman Institute, as it had been previously known, was started by this man, Cleon Skousen, were basically a bunch of people from various walks of life all over the country who believed that this country was founded without income tax. That means you don't have to pay it. And, and this country had no OSHA originally, no regulation of safety for workers or safety for drinking water. So that meant that if, you didn't have to abide by it. And he just basically searched through old documents and old books and things to come up with, ways to write up more and more books about how the government doesn't, about how the government doesn't have any right to have any role in your life whatsoever. And that's what America is supposed to be, because we are free men.
And I
now here's a never mind. Go ahead. Go on. Here's the policeman telling people, I'm the law in Salt Lake City, or I was, and you guys don't have to obey the laws that I used to enforce.
Right. Or didn't, more particularly.
Didn't enforce.
Right. I mean, by the way, he was not chief of police when Tim Bundy was even in Utah.
Oh, really?
He'd been fired by then.
Okay.
Being here, for having made the pilgrimage intellectually and spiritually that brought you here. I have just listened to the 3 videotapes by Reverend Tom McDavitt, and I think I have a better appreciation of the theology of the Unification Church than I would have had otherwise, although I had read a number of books. It was so clearly presented by an expert teacher, and as a fellow teacher, I congratulate him. I don't know whether he's here tonight or, well, hello. Hello. I have never seen anyone who could make a chalk talk so well on the blackboard, so precisely, and cover so much ground. And I found, of course, so many of the things he was emphasizing in complete harmony with my own philosophy and theology.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
That's all I want to say. Joseph Smith, roll over, guy.
So we have a great work to do. And I had a thrilling experience in the car coming up with Colonel Park.
Here it comes.
I said, when did Reverend Moon come to the United States? He said 1971. And that...
Get ready to witness a miracle. It's a Mooney Mormon miracle.
That is the year I felt so impelled to start a great new educational program for Americans about America.
The Moonies and the Freeman Institute are all called of God.
They'd lost their way, and we started it the 4th of July, 1971.
Correct my history, brethren, former brethren, broken brethren. Correct my history, if you will. 1984. This is October 1984. Who is the prophet of the Mormon Church at this point?
Spencer W. Kimball.
Is it really?
Yes.
I thought for sure it was Benson.
No, Benson didn't take over till, let me see.
I remember Benson when I was a kid, but I always mix up the dates. So, okay, so my understanding of it is this. Now let's just get this clear in case, and if you don't know more about this than I do, or please call me out if you know the history to be wrong. My understanding.
Kimball died November 85.
85. Okay. And at that point he was still he pretty much stayed cognizant to the end, didn't he? Kimball get a little fuzzy.
Much better than Benson.
Right. Benson didn't have long in office before he started going batty, as my understanding.
Right, but Kimball was pretty lucid up until the last year or so, I think, if I remember.
Now, Kimball was a controversial figure in and of himself. I mean, they all were, Kimball, right?
But Benson probably was the president of the Quorum of the 12.
Yes, Benson was the president of the 12.
Right. Either formally, he wasn't in the first presidency, right?
No, so he was just a straight president.
No. Yeah, he's just a straight president.
And because my understanding had always been, at least with Kimball, who, on one hand wrote the Miracle of Forgiveness, which basically says, just a few years before Bundy came to Utah, and part of the reason why at least some women claim that Bundy attacked them, they escaped, and they never told anybody because they felt they were no longer virgins. And in the Miracle of Forgiveness, they had read that if you survive being raped, that you were no longer a virgin. You had broken the law of chastity.
Because it was better for you to die than to lose your virginity.
Yeah.
Right. So
if
that
you die,
right.
Of course, if you died during the attack, you would have both died and lost your virginity. So,
right. But at least you could make it clear to God that you tried, you know,
You tried to protect your virginity.
Right.
For Mormon men.
Right.
Yes.
And they, so that guy who wrote that and a lot of other stuff and wrote a lot of racist stuff and said a lot of racist stuff. You have to remember, this is in the 50s, 60s, 70s. This is when Cleon Skousen and Benson are rising in, you know, working basically as lobbyists for the church you know, FBI agent in one case in Washington, and back home in Salt Lake City, they're talking about these guys are making us look like a bunch of wild extremists. They're making us look bad. You know, they didn't think that it was actually a very good idea. It's my understanding that Benson was out there. They wanted to call him back to Salt Lake because he was getting too radicalized.
Yes.
And that was including, I should clarify this because I don't think I've stated it. Benson was called up in the Nixon administration to be Secretary of Agriculture.
Right.
And he was just about the worst pick for it too. Because
And he's the one that gave the farmers money for not planting crops.
Mm-hmm.
That was his policy.
And tried to convince them to
Was
sell
it
out.
Eisenhower's? It was in Eisenhower's.
I said Nixon, and you're right. It was Eisenhower. I'm sorry. Eisenhower. And so
Nixon was vice president, though.
Right. Nixon
That's right.
Vice president.
So you were just 4 letters away.
And they were close, I thought. Weren't they? Nixon and Benson? Didn't they work together? I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining that. I might be imagining that. So in any event.
Could have been friends in the government.
But my understanding was always that the church was very leery about Skousen and Benson because they found out that my understanding actually was that Benson tried to get the church to endorse the John Birch Society in some way, or right?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is the same time they're actually starting at that point to associate with Jerry Falwell, and then James C. Dobson.
When Reagan was elected, that's when the Moore majority, and that all coalesces.
That's right. And the Mormons were right there in it. I mean, just a part of it. But my understanding was that David O. McKay didn't like the idea of the church getting close to the John Birch Society.
No,
when he was prophet. Spencer W. Kimball didn't like it, even though he could have fit right in, but he didn't. They didn't like the church getting involved in politics, especially as more of what these John Birch Society guys were getting up to became well known. Right? Is that consistent with your understanding?
See, Kimball wanted to prepare future missionaries to go to China.
Yeah, that's right.
Saying you should learn Mandarin, your generation, you know.
Right.
And he was more open to spreading the gospel worldwide. And Benson was an avowed anti-communist, so we can't go to Russia, we can't go to China, where Benson had a view of taking the church to the whole world.
Right.
I mean, under his presidency, it really opened up. We went into Yugoslavia. We built a temple in East Germany, for crying out loud. How they got that done, and he went places you wouldn't think that we would have gone.
The other one thing that happened around the same time in the late 70s, early 80s, one of those was Huebner. Huebner was produced at BYU.
1980, 81, 70. So
play.
The play.
And that,
which is now the film. Well, the same story. Right. Is now told in the very good film I highly recommend. I can't believe I'm saying that about an Angel Studios film, but it was actually a very good film, which is Truth and Treason. Truth and Treason. And it's actually really good. I read the book by the other guy, by Rudy Voba, which was Blood Before the Blood Tribunal. But this
Yes.
one, which, as I understand, was based on the story of Karl-Heinz Schneebe, was very good, and it was very consistent with the story. So, anyways, but then they started running this play about how 3 Mormon teenagers resisted Hitler by printing out the truth of what was happening in the war on red leaflets with a swastika stamped on it that Helmut Hubner had stolen from his father, his stepdad, and they were going to take it to national syndication. Not syndication, but they were going to take it on tour. And the church shut it down, from my understanding, and the excuse was, we're still trying to get into East Germany. This was before the wall fell, right? Before the wall came down. And so they're like, we're trying to serve we can't do this, and it's too politically charged or whatever. But then, at the same time, the conclusion that came out of it also at the same time was, are we sure it's not just that? A lot of Germans who came to America under Operation Paperclip or just generally after the war, a lot of German Mormons were part of were Nazis back in Germany. But
my mission president.
Okay, there you go.
I don't know if he's a Nazi, but he was a German soldier.
Yeah. I mean, and there's Nazi and then there's Nazi, and there the twain shall meet. But there were people who were members of the party back in the time when you could be in serious trouble if you weren't a member of the party, right? But then there were Mormons there was a Mormon who ran a concentration camp in Berlin. There were Mormons who were actively engaged in the final solution. I mean, it was a hard time to say, we were always against Hitler. It's like, no, we weren't. So, okay. Well, this isn't the right way out.
Well, we got to finish this, don't we? Or is that what you're going to show?
Yeah. Is that okay? Do we have time?
Were you going to show more or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Let's keep going now.
I think we're part of something that's a lot bigger than we are.
Yeah, by the way, Heritage Foundation and the Claremont Institute. This is a good comment from Alan Olive. Thanks, Alan Olive. Hopefully, I don't know how you came into this live, but I'm glad you stayed. Yeah, Heritage Foundation's tied into this. Claremont Institute is tied into this. Prager University ends up tied into this at the same time. It's all one big cycle.
Yeah.
Now, when I attended the first CASA meeting, I sat there fascinated. Now, you see, Marxism is one of my areas of specialization in the FBI.
Here we go.
Marxism is not easy to deal with. It's being taught in our major universities all across this continent.
It is.
With absolutely no repudiation, no refutation, no rebuttal, not even clarification. And as I sat in the first CASA meeting, I said, this is the first and most impressive and persuasive scientific explanation of the fallacy of Hegel and Marx I have ever heard. And
okay, the brief explanation there. So Hegel is Hegel, as I understood it, was basically a monist, which is one way of basically saying he was a materialist kind of atheist. Yes. And that his scientific philosophy was basically that if it can't be explained in the material world, it doesn't exist. It doesn't have an explanation. Right. And then Marx, of course, is, in this point, at this point, 1984, as far as any American knows, is just communism. Marx and socialism and communism and Soviet Union are all one the same
lumped
thing.
Together.
Right.
Right. I told my wife at the time, this just warms my heart to see somebody who can come to grips with the few people who really want to understand Marxism and are not just taken in by its propaganda.
just so we can say again, he's talking about Reverend Moon, who believed he was the new Messiah, and yeah, believed that till he died, as far as I know.
They really want to know whether or not there was any merit to their dialectical confusion. Causa has the best answer. Now, in The Naked Communist, I put down the 25 major fallacies of communist theory. But there's a deeper theory below that I didn't come to grip with. Oh, I did in a minor sort of way, but there were so few minds that would even have an interest in it. I didn't want them to get lost in the first chapter. And so I moved on to the 25 fallacies that they could probably understand better. But you see, in Causa, you take the serious scholar who really has been converted to communism, like Whittaker Chambers was, and Elizabeth Bentley, who were intellectual converts to communism or Marxism, and open it up. Now, it took Whittaker Chambers a period of years to realize that the major fallacy of Marxism was an error. He was feeding pablum to his little daughter in an apartment in Baltimore. In any event, he made a great contribution.
I skipped ahead in that story. It took forever. When this guy goes off on a tear,
in his own right, and suffered like as a martyr, like so many people do who do a good job.
Okay, here we go.
In any event, I just wanted to remind you that there are some very keen intellectuals out there who have been persuaded that Marxism was right, that Hegel's dialectics was correct, and that this is the explanation for everything in existence, so there doesn't really have to be a creator factor. See, that's what's so vicious about it. It wipes out the need for a creator factor. And it's based on a principle, of course, that by bringing together two opposites in conflict, they naturally eventually break apart and explode, but synthesize at a higher level, always at a higher level. Of course, it violates the second law of thermodynamics, but don't worry about that. It's a nice story.
Okay. In case you didn't follow all of that little ramble where it went, I'll be the atheist who jumps in and guides you along. So remember I said back in near the turn of the 20th century, the Vatican started circulating this idea that Jews and atheists had basically invented democracy, communism, and monism or atheism to try and lead souls away from God. Because remember, at that point in time, the Vatican wasn't just the Vatican. The Vatican was the capital of the papal states. And inside the papal states, as it is inside Vatican City today, the Pope is referred to as His Majesty, Your Majesty. He is the king there. And so the idea that democracy could rule any group of people better than a king was considered heresy inside of Catholicism. And as the fascists started to gain power, in Europe, the first one, the man who invented the word fascism was who? Mussolini, who hitched his wagon directly to the Pope, directly to the church for exactly that reason. And so, this became part of far-right / fascist propaganda from that point forward, is that democracy is evil, even in countries that prided themselves on being democratic countries. And it's being tied to atheism, which is the same thing as communism. As often as they can, if he says Marxism, he's going to make it, look, they don't want to get called out for being sinners against God. So they teach you that there is no God. Communism and atheism have to be one and the same thing, which is absurd. Even Marx said that religion was the opiate of the masses. And when he said that, he meant it nicely. He meant that it was good for the people because nobody else was going to look out for them unless they broke down the state.
And so that's the way they explain everything coming into a higher and higher order of things.
Oh, but that's what that second law of thermodynamics is. It's the stupidest thing in the world. Second law of thermodynamics says that inside a closed system, things tend to get more disordered as they move around, and rather than more ordered. And so their claim is planet Earth is a closed system. Therefore, if things are more ordered than they were before, how you judge that or not, I don't know. But if it looks to you like the world around you is ordered, that means that there had to have been somebody actually putting his hand on the plow and forcing it to be more ordered. In spite of the fact that this world is not ordered at all.
Among my brothers and sisters.
Plus, this is not a closed system. You realize you're being radiated by the sun and all of the stars all the time.
Right.
Of a great ongoing world movement to perform a service which God has had to wait all too long to have achieved. Now I'm going to just tell you a few things briefly, and then maybe while you're standing up for a little rest, I'll have distributed some pamphlets here that will tell you a little bit about what we're doing. When we started out, I couldn't think of a name for our organization. But the founding father said, these are the inalienable rights of freemen. They didn't say Americans. Freemen. That's all over the world. The Magna Carta said, these are the rights of freemen. So I thought, that's a great name. That's a great name. Let's inspire people to understand what it means to be a freeman again. So we call it the Freeman Institute. But lately, we've been instructing hundreds and hundreds, several thousand public school teachers. Their legislatures passed laws that they have to teach the Constitution now. They don't know what to teach. And so they've called us in to help them kind of catch the vision of it. When I was introduced last year as president of the Freeman Institute, hand goes up, who's Mr. Freeman? I said, well, that's you. Oh?
I'll give him this. He was a decent orator. He was good. He could speak, but boy, he would just go from one lie to another. He'd just spin a yarn after a yarn after a yarn.
Your headquarters, Salt Lake City. Oh, Mormon. No, this is for everybody. Every church, every political party. Take me about.
Apparently, especially if you're a Mooney. You notice that he did say just a minute ago that he, a Mormon, and Reverend Moon and his congregation were sent by God. That this is a godly movement they were doing together. This is you can see how it is that both the Mormon Church eventually winds up kind of trying to diminish my understanding, it tries to diminish his influence in the church. To my understanding, he never actually published a book through Siegel or through Deseret Book and Tape, or Siegel Book and Tape or Deseret Book, right? So
no,
I think he published probably a few titles through Bookcraft. I think was his, or he just published them through the Centers for Constitutional Study. But yeah,
45 minutes before I can start delivering my message. And names really aren't important. The message is important. And if the name is getting in the way of the message, nothing's sacred about the name. Most names, there are one or two names that are sacred. But
can you think of one, brethren? What's a sacred name of an organization? Let's see.
Church of Jesus Christ, Latter-day Saints.
What?
Most names aren't. Move it away. And it's like in some of in the Freeman Digest, for example, you'll see several names there that, for example, there's one named Willard Woods. When you've been in this so long, you write an awful lot. So my staff has said, now put that in. That's a good one. I said, I don't like to see my name there so much. They said, well, change the name. So there's one Willard Woods. Well, that's my first name, Willard.
Oh, jeez.
You just got a good piece of information from Cleon Scouts.
Talk about solipsistic to the extreme. To the extreme.
Publishing his own newsletter, writing so many of his own articles that he changes his names in some of them. so that he can look like he has more than one writer at the place.
Because my name is Skousen for Danish. I mean, is English for Skousen. Skousen is a Danish name, means wood.
This man writes for a living.
So Willard Woods is in the magazine. And,
Watch this. You're going to get a kick out of this one, Pro.
Absalom Smith is in the magazine. Now, that's my great-great-grandfather. And
Absalom Smith.
Oh, my God.
and so we thought it'd be nice to have him in the magazine. He liked these kinds of things.
So he's writing under 3 names.
Under 3 names in his own newsletter. Because people are paying $30 a year for it. They got to get that.
Oh, my God. I didn't know this. Oh,
he's got dozens and dozens of Moonies all over the world. He's got to have content for the Freeman.
So when we began teaching congressmen and senators, their staff, and some of the leaders in Washington, we said our program was from the National Center of Constitutional Studies. And everything went just fine. And
mind you, he just admitted they lied. He's not able to tell anybody. Probably because he's now officially associated with, because he just admitted he's going to Mooney meetings. He's this Mormon FBI agent who's going to Mooney meetings all over the world. You know, the FBI, this is how he ends up on FBI lists.
Sure it is.
Right? And so,
sure.
I mean, at this point, 1984, they're already calling Reverend Moon a cult leader. So,
oh yeah, well they were calling him that when I was on my mission in 73, 70, when it began in 70, well, early, but 74, 75, when he came to Germany, we already knew it was a cult.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And,
I mean, I taught a Mooney, so there was one girl we taught a couple lessons to. She was a Mooney.
Was she Korean?
No, she was German. But she had the button, you know.
They had buttons? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, they had buttons with the red lines on it, like a moon.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's
the
cool.
The National Board heard how well it went. They said, why don't we just adopt that name? So we reincorporated in Washington, D.C. I have just returned from addressing a large number of public school teachers in Texas. And I was introduced as chairman of the board of the National Center for Constitutional Studies, Washington, D.C. You'd be amazed what the reaction is. They said, oh, we heard about that. Now, what they really mean is they heard about the Constitution. And they heard about Washington, D.C.
More importantly, they know people in Washington, D.C. have heard of the Freeman Institute. They had to change the name so that these people couldn't get into political trouble for associating with a tax dodger.
When the National Board heard how well it went, they said, why don't we just adopt that name? So we reincorporated in Washington, D.C. I have just returned from addressing a large number of public school teachers in Texas. Margaret Mead is down here, and about every Friday she brings over 18 or 20 of her fine missionaries, and they help us put this together. I mean, this is kind of a unification project, you see.
Slave labor.
If you didn't catch
Margaret Mead?
Margaret Mead. Do you know Margaret Mead? Do you know who that is? I was wondering if that was a famous person. It sounds familiar. Was she a Mooney?
No.
American cultural anthropologist and author.
Yes.
Yep.
Margaret Mead.
Was she?
She died in 78.
Oh yeah, that's a different one then.
Okay, it's got to be a different one. Okay, go on.
Okay. Anyway, so we'll keep going. This is this is getting to the end of this of all this content. We've consumed a lot. So basically, he did just admit this woman has missionaries in Washington D.C. and when he, because he doesn't charge enough to actually publish a professional publications, which sounds very much consistent with my experience at BFA. He just gets her Mooney missionaries, to assemble his materials for free.
Now, very quickly, let me just run through a couple of things. You see, as I mentioned to all of those who attended the program in Paris on May the 22nd, actually everybody in the world wants three things. Every nation in the world wants three things.
That's the end of it, basically. So yeah, so that's our deep dive into the man who was exposed as part of the scheme
Can I
behind Turning Point USA.
Throw out what I've heard as a rumor and see if anybody wants to bite on it?
Okay. We'll take a rumor. We're at that 2-hour mark. This is when the conspiracy theories come out.
About 2017, a gentleman contacted me on Facebook claiming to be either a Skousen's son.
Oh, he's going there. You're going
or
there.
a relative. He
Okay.
told me that Cleon Skousen was a pedophile, that was a sexual abuser, and that he protected leaders of the Mormon Church from being arrested for having those kind of proclivities. And there's the rumor that Gordon B. Hinckley liked little boys. And there's a rumor that the church had a party house up one of the canyons that people went to. And there's a video on YouTube where these people who are former prostitutes claim that it happened. So,
Oh my gosh, Joe. Sorry, Joey. Scouts and bootlegs. What specifically was bootleg passed around? Was it the 5,000 year leap? But yeah, that's interesting. I'd like to know where that is. Was that in Southeast Asia?
Wow.
Joey, am I thinking of the right Joey? So that's interesting. Mm-hmm. When I was at BFA, Scouts and bootlegs were our textbooks. You didn't, we couldn't afford to buy the new textbooks. So at headquarters, Glenn Kimber's people would tell us, we'll just send you a 3-ring binder with the textbook. And you just take it down and Xerox it. We would just go down and Xerox it.
What's BFA?
BFA was Benjamin Franklin Academy. That's the Skousenite school I went to. And I turned out fine.
You turned out better because of the experience.
I remember. So I'll reveal this a little bit to you. So we studied Skousenite literature at school, but we didn't do any after-school activities with the John Birchers or anything like that. I went to one meeting after school with my mom of the Eagle Forum. In that one meeting, I think I got the creepiest feeling I'd ever had in my entire life at that point. It was the first time I remember thinking, I believe in the church. I believe in Skousen and his writings. I believe in all of this, but I don't know that we're on the right side here, because I heard so much stuff that as a teenager, I mean, I'm talking like 14, 15 years of age, I went, there's some pretty anti-American stuff being said in this meeting, in my opinion. And I was raised in a Republican household, man. We were Reagan Republicans, And I remember hearing there was a lot about how they had said about how the UN was taking over the school system.
Right.
The UN was going to send all of your sons to war. The UN was going to force all of our kids to be gay. Was going to end ever since Brown v. Education and taking prayer out of school. That they were determined to make sure that the entire generation turned out atheists. And I'll just say I've never been to war yet.
Right.
Atheist it did turn out to be.
But how did the Turn You Gay go?
Yeah, I got a little bit of that. Got a touch of the gay. Yeah, I'm into it. I'm hip for a good time. But this was fun, guys. I mean, anything you wanted to add, guys, before we wrap up?
I guess it's happened before, but Cleon Skousen's the first person I ever heard admit that he was his own ghostwriter.
That's amazing. I've never heard that. Wow.
Apparently he didn't realize that's not the way that should go. That defeats the purpose.
I'll never forget being in a bookstore in San Bernardino and pulling one of his history book off the shelf and reading just a few paragraphs in there and realizing how screwed up the guy's history really was.
And it's amazing how much power you can get from writing a book and pretending you have a big company or organization by having a newsletter and pretending other people are writing for it and being capable. I mean, I couldn't do it. I could do it now because I have AI, but I couldn't do it 40 years ago. But I would have if I had some writing confidence and abilities, right? I started an organization called Friends for Knowledge at Chabot College. And if I started pounding out a newsletter and stuff, and I was the Rough Times, which I think is part of the Eagle Forum as well. Howard Ruff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I was close enough. I put together some of the Rough Times games, and I made a presentation to the people just underneath Howard Ruff about here's a bumper sticker that you guys could have, and it was called Ruffian. But anyhow, I could have been there, just like I was a contender for Jesus. I was almost another W. Cleon Skousen or Howard Ruff or Mark Hoffman had I had that much knowledge and ability.
When we moved to Colorado in 73 and I went on my mission, I came home in 75. My parents were Democrats, okay? I was raised in a Roosevelt Democrat family, which is a lot different than the Democrats now.
Sure.
And I come home and my dad has none dare call a conspiracy on his desk in his business. And I shit my pants. I said, Dad, because right before, when I was going to Santa Monica City College, we had a Bircher come and tell us all about, we were political science class. And the guy came in and told us all about the Birchers. And I could see through what was going on. Okay. But I get home and I said, Dad, do you really believe this stuff? You know, and he had all these books and he was reading them. And then years later, he says, you know what? It was all garbage. I believed all this shit. And I was wrong. Like,
really?
Yeah, I told you. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
We figured it out. Yeah.
Was your dad a union man?
No, he was an engineer.
Mm.
And a
There's
pilot.
nothing as low calorie as a word salad.
What did that? What did
on
we just have on the screen? I didn't see it.
Oh,
what is that?
We were going over. Joey Smith was talking about the materials of Skousen's that were bootlegged around in his mission.
Oh, okay.
But he was saying that he didn't listen to them because they weren't church approved. This is the thing, is that you could hardly throw a rock in a sacrament meeting in the 1990s without hitting somebody who had read tons of Skousen. But pretty much everybody that I knew his materials were not considered doctrinal by the church, and that we were bad. We were the bad boys.
Oh,
for reading that shit.
But his books were used in gospel doctrine.
Oh yeah.
When I came off my mission and before the correlated manuals came out, the Sunday school teacher was teaching from the first 1,000 years. We were doing Old Testament, and I said, "This is wrong." I said, "This isn't history. This is."
I can't tell you how many talks I gave where I took Bruce R. McConkey's Mormon doctrine up to the pulpit. There was no question about it.
Just read, right.
There it is. It's like, as was stated by the Elder McConkey. But there was no question. I got no tap on the leg for that.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't know if W. Cleon Skousen was got a second anointing or whatever. But no matter what, he was Mormon, and so he thought that whatever came into his mind, God put there.
Exactly.
And he was doing it all for God and his religion and his country.
There was today, I marvel to think that today the King Follett sermon, King Follett, yeah, that's how I always called it. But apparently I've heard other people say it differently. Well, whatever, it doesn't matter. I say Fanny Alger. But I marvel that they don't think that that there are Mormons today who think the King Follett sermon isn't doctrine. I'm like, are you kidding me? Why? Because his scribe, wrote it down. We don't know what he actually said. And I'm like, that's true about all the sermons he gave.
Every single thing.
That was like all of it, man.
The only thing that we know is the D&C, and even that was changed.
Right. Or the Book of Mormon. But, who's to say? Who's to say how much Oliver changed, how much Martin changed? I mean, we think they wouldn't have done that, but.
Or even how much Brigham Young changed everything.
Exactly.
Now you're getting
rewrote all the documents.
Yeah, you're getting into some scary polygamy denier who killed Joseph Smith stuff. You guys see that Josiah Ryan? Is it Ryan? Ryan Josiah. Thank you. He's doing that. That Willard Richards and that content about Willard Richards and John Taylor killed Joseph Smith.
Yeah, right.
I don't buy it. I'm sorry.
I don't buy any of it.
I mean, I guess it's possible, but I still go back to look until any of these guys admit that Joseph and Hiram got blotto drunk that night.
That's right.
With the John Taylor, and according to John Taylor, and okay, maybe he was lying. But according to John Taylor, he's like, people who said we ordered a barrel of wine to have sacrament need to shut the F up. And he didn't say
true.
He said they need to shut up. We did not order it to have sacrament. We ordered it to lift our spirits. And then our spirits turned dark, or he used some euphemism like that when we turned melancholy or something. And which means they got drunk enough to get depressed, basically. They start crying in their beer. And so they either were drunk and or hungover, which is just another form of drunk when the mob got there. So
That's
it's
right.
like, yeah. Anyways, so Joey's weighing in on this. The forensic expert they hired that examined all the evidence said that was a dumbass theory. Yeah. So those of you who don't know, since we're staying overtime anyways, I don't want to keep you brethren longer than you need to be. You're welcome to stay or drop out as you want. But if you don't know, there's a documentary called Who Killed Joseph Smith?
Yeah.
And it posts this whole theory which basically feeds into polygamy denier and has from the beginning stories that basically says that the polygamists in the church who did not include Joseph Smith, supposedly, did Joseph Smith in because he didn't believe in polygamy, he didn't support polygamy and wanted to put an end to it, which is, I think is ludicrous, but maybe just because of my bias.
And it is kind of hilarious that all those deniers love the Brighamite church, even though they're saying Brigham fucked it all up.
That's right.
And now it's the Brighamite church kicking them out. And it's
exactly.
What bizarro world are we living in here?
I don't know.
That's right.
Because
I don't know.
It does feel an awful lot like Nelson and Oakes have a personal vendetta about this. I mean, I don't know. I'm not privy to any kind of privileged information that you brethren aren't, right? But I mean, but doesn't it seem that way? Because both of them are spiritual polygamists. Is that not true?
Here's
true.
That's right. True. And here's the one thing I will grant all the history revisionists is that it appears that the church from the very beginning lied about stuff. and hasn't stopped. And so why not?
Yeah,
have an alternate history, because who knows how corrupt the history was forever. Every single time you're told something, how do you know a Mormon's lying? His lips are moving.
Look, I don't often speak poorly of the polygamy deniers because, hey, Jules, hi. Because while I do think their history is super bad, not good at all. Oh, by the way, I should mention this. So there's two parts, if you don't know, of the Joseph Smith, Who Killed Joseph Smith documentary. The second part, the one they don't promote as much as I understand it, I haven't watched it, but from what I understand, is the one where that forensic expert they used in the first document, in the first movie, first half, says, look, I humored you as much as I could, but these are all the reasons why this isn't even plausible.
That's exactly it. He's in the second movie, yes.
Yep.
There are other movies too. I think there's a third and something. There's a response and all this stuff that they do.
But one thing I love about it, and I'm gonna be doing a show about the Journal of Mormon Polygamy, is that as long as the words Mormon and polygamy are in the zeitgeist, people are going to look up. They're going to Google Mormon and polygamy.
Yeah,
and that's makes it for a beautiful world, in my opinion.
And they're going to know that Mormon polygamy is trafficking.
That's right. Eventually, they'll get there.
And I love that there are Mormons who are willing to admit that and think it's a terrible thing. So terrible, they want to divorce it from Joseph Smith because they're still in love with him.
That's true.
Right. All right. Thanks, Joe.
It's good to see you.
Thank you,
we should wrap it up. But thank you, everybody, for coming out and for staying and lingering longer. This has been a great show. I want to thank you, brother, for being here.
Good job.
We didn't even consume enough wine to lift our spirits.
Speak for yourself. Got this Jesus just right here.
Anyway, we'll talk to you later.
Right.
Thanks.
Talk to them.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.